I have a clock, and I have no slide, but I'm sure they will pop up at the back magically. So I was trying to figure out how I'm going to make the link between what we've just witnessed and our inner level of consciousness. And the best I'm going to come up with is the fact that we are talking about elevating the sales profession. And I want to spend the next 7 minutes to talk about how elevating your level of consciousness as a leader can really enable you to have success in your professional life, but at the same time as access well-being. That's my link, just made that up. So being a sales leader is hard. Now the clock is not ticking, so I'm taking it, I have more bonus points. Yeah, sales leader is hard. So a lot of you will be asked to effectively manage teams of different generations together. And that can involve a lot of conflict. You might be asked to bring up new technologies, and that might, as a sales leader, define your role and responsibility. You might also be asked to think about coaching and how to let go of control and let people do things their own way. But at the same time, you have to own the responsibility and accountability for their results. We talk a lot about authenticity and vulnerability and compassion. And there's a lot more about well-being in the workplace. And as a sales leader, you're having to deliver numbers that have never been delivered before in your organization. So I don't know about you, but it's a lot. It feels like a lot, just like, I'm going to shake it off. Glad that's not my job anymore. But effectively, as a sales leader, you're just normal human beings. And I just want to bring back to, the now 5 minutes and 54 seconds left to just take a more internal aspect when we talk about leadership. The next speakers are going to give us some great models and frameworks about their best practices. And, I've worked with clients to resolve these kind of issues. But I just don't think we talk enough about the fact that success can cost greatly. I've been in sales for 15 years, so I've seen the other side of things. And so I want to talk to you about the success paradox. And so this idea that you can be great in one aspect of your career and then see things fall apart in your relationship, on your health. And I've kind of been there, so that's why I'm kind of passionate about sharing this stuff. So, there's a lot of stuff you can do to prevent that. So I'm going to talk about, the cost of success. I mean, how many of you here today can relate to this? When you're in a peak performance state and you're doing really well at work, who in this room would say it's costing you in other aspects of your life? So a few of you are being quite honest. Thank you. And, those of you who didn't put your hand up, to be able to find that peak performance and well-being, people do that. And I just don't think it's shared enough. And what I'm trying to get to is that I had to go through deep suffering, having 3 weeks off work in 2015 with dizziness and some awful other side effects that I just didn't see coming. And this kind of stuff doesn't just creep up on you. You get a lot of signs if you better understand your body. So after this experience, sorry, I'm just going to have a glass of water. My body is currently telling me that I feel rather nervous, and so my lips are dry. So I was completely disconnected to my body, and that's why I kind of just ended up falling over at the worst possible time. And what I'm trying to acknowledge here is that our bodies at any given point in time give us plenty of feedback loops about our tension and even our feelings. Now, I actually learned that the chronic pains we have, and they might be slight, but recurring pains in your shoulder and your low back, they're actually here to tell us stuff about emotions. So I can tell you, for example, that when I get pain in my hip, it's usually associated to high expectations of myself. And I learned that because of kind of introspection and being coached. And it helps me guide decisions when I now know that I'm actually putting too much stuff on. I have actually physical signs. So if we can spend a bit more time getting to know how our bodies and our emotions and our thinkings are connected, we've actually got a whole internal world map inside of us that can actually help us, guide us to make better decisions for our well-being. So how do I link that to confidence? We talk about confidence in sales, and I've been there, and faking it till you make it works. It works, especially when you're learning a new skill. Absolutely. But at what cost? And as a leader, you know, I've coached leaders, and as soon as we get into emotional stuff or blockages, it's kind of like, well, you know, Lauren, that's just the way I have to be. You know, that's what leaders do. The leader I should be. And that's where things go wrong, because the leader you should be is taking you a lot of energy. When you're being praised, you're not actually acknowledging that positivity because you don't feel it's you. And so by actually investing in better understanding your emotions, your body, and even your thoughts, your positive strength, as well as, you know, your limiting beliefs, you can have more confidence in who you are as a person. And that's where authentic leadership comes in. You know, you can't go on a course and learn to be an authentic leader, theoretically. You have to actually understand how you're wired to really feel that. Because when you're going to have hard times, when you're not hitting your number and your team is looking at you to actually tell them what to do and how to deal with the pressure themselves, they're expecting you to know how to do that. And how many, you know, I've had managers, and I've done it myself, where when under pressure, I'm empty, I have nothing to give. And so I'm not being much support to someone else. And again, the reason I'm kind of suggesting that this stuff matters and it's just not fluffy well-being stuff is because if you can really pay attention and invest in understanding your inner wiring and how all this stuff is connected, that's the key to authentic leadership. That's how you can be more compassionate about yourself when things become difficult. Cut yourself some slack. And when you do that and remind yourself of how good you are at other things, then when you're going to be with your team, you're going to be create a lot safer environment, and they're going to open up to you, and they're going to tell you the real problems. It's only when you hear the real problems that you can actually fix them and have an impact. So I guess that's kind of what I wanted to share. You know, when we talk about confidence and the success paradox, you know, that link I'm making is that your well-being is most professional and personal. And I invite you to just have a think about, you know, leveraging, you know, your body and your emotion and just being a little bit more mindful of the fact that we have our own internal kind of KPI dashboard within ourselves. And to include that when you're, you know, talking about success criteria, KPIs for 2020, you know, what are the signs for you that your well-being is being off, you know? One of the first tips you could be doing is actually thinking about what is it costing you today. So the cost could be time, it could be energy, you know, and just start with that, but just measure it, because if you don't measure it, you're not going to act upon it. So that's my time. I'm actually on time because I haven't said half the things I wanted to say. But I just feel like this felt right. So thank you very much for listening. And if this resonates, thank you.